All right, so we know what is the user story, and now we also know what is the functionality, right? And we do know where the user story belongs. And we also know who write the code. A software engineer write the code for the backend developer, for the front end developer, a mobile app for the mobile app, a desktop app. But everything starts with the backend. In the modern software development, everything starts with the backend, because backend where we start writing the code. Writing the code and based on what? User story. That's actually we write the logic. Logic means you just sign up, you just sign in, log out, reset password. This is everything we call the logic, means writing the code. For this writing the code, we use the different programming language. Okay, Python, PHP, Node.js, JavaScript, Java, right? Golang is all the programming language the company use. Based on the team, they decide. That's up to them. That's not your decision. So all you need to know what programming language have been used to write this website or mobile app. That's all you need to know. So for the e-commerce platform, we are using the Node.js stack. Node.js stack. Node.js is like a JS means JavaScript. JavaScript is a programming language. It has been used and it will be used forever. JavaScript was used for the client, like the browser side, like the logic. Okay, browser side means in the browser, you can do so many logic for user activities. But someone was become very like what is called innovative. He bring the JavaScript to write the business logic. Someone was innovative. He actually made something that we can write the JavaScript for the backend. All are JavaScript only for the browser. So how that works? He invented an engine. Engine is like what is called the Node.js. So what happened when you run the JavaScript code, it hit the engine and then it actually run the business logic. That's pretty much it's called the Node.js. It's a free. Okay, so you guys will be learning more details. For now, like when a backend developer write the code, based on what? Sign up, sign in, log out, reset password. Each of this small functionality. So, and whenever we do anything in the backend, now you know the front end need to accept it. Accept means the mobile app need to like consume it. We call the consumer. Or the desktop needs to consume it. Or website, the web browser need to consume. Consume means you need to connect it. Okay, and if you do not connect the backend code with the front end will not work. For your test, for your sanity, in the Agile ALM, there is so many buttons exist, they don't work. Try it out, find it and try it out. This is your test. In the Agile ALM, there is multiple, the button, they do not work because there is no backend connection or there is no logic. Yeah, go ahead.
So that has to be driven from the backend.
Yes. A front end in the modern application, the backend is driving the front end. Front end can be anything, website, mobile app, desktop app. Good. So when development is start with the backend. And backend actually connected with the database. Front end is not connected with the database. A mobile app is not connected with the database in the modern application development. So what do you know? A backend connect with the database. A front end connect with the web server. A backend is connected with the web server. Now you say, what is the web server? Web server is a server that connect two people, two systems. One is front end, one is backend. Why? Because we do not want a client, a browser directly hit my system. We do not want it. It's a risk. Because what happens if he just produces a malware, then my backend will be crashed. So we put something in the middle. It's called the web server. So front-end request all has come now. Front-end request all has come to the web server. Web server has a connection with the backend. So it request goes. But this is not your scope. You are not doing it. That done by the cloud ops engineer, DevOps engineer. They do all of this.
Who creates the server?
All DevOps engineer.
DevOps?
They do all. That's the environment readiness, all DevOps job. That's the reason they use the Linux and they do all the deployment.
So can backend user access the what do you say?
Front end.
No.
No.
Can backend user access the backend? Like
the server.
Not the user.
like backend user. Can,
There backend nobody can touch it. Only company's internal employee means development team. They can test it or they can see it. The front end user never see the backend.
what about the backend user?
There is no backend user.
So there is a technical
Do not-
question.
Yeah.
Like can backend user access the backend? There's a technical question.
No, unless you write it down properly, you have to present the whole question thoroughly. There is instead of there is, write down the hey, this is the question. I do not understand the meaning.
Some questions are
Yeah.
confusing and
Yeah.
some.
No, evidence.
I think the question was can the front end user
they can.
use the backend or have access something?
Okay, so put this, then we can clarify it. Okay. So now let's say if what is the Swagger now? Okay. So what is the Swagger? Why we talked about all of this? Swagger is a library or is a tools or is used in the software development. Software developer use the Swagger. It's a library.
So the question, sorry to interrupt. The question is, can the end user access the backend?
No,
Who is the
Answer
end
is-
user?
end user is in the e-commerce. Who is the end user? You go to my website, you buy the product, you are the end user.
Am I not the front end user?
Yes, front end user, end user, the same thing.
You're the user.
Yeah, I'm the user, but he's saying like, can the end user access the backend?
Yes,
So-
answer is no.
Is there anything called an end user?
Yeah. End user means who is the last person use this application.
Like end user and front user is like
Same.
same.
Okay, then.
Go ahead.
Because of the end user
No.
thing, I was confused.
Okay.
I
Yeah, these are the technical terms we like to hear in the industry. So then
You
the-
should like clarify that, like modify the question, use like front end.
No, we call the end user.
And you.
You can clarify.
Okay.
You know, you have to know so many like the buzzword. There is no one. People will call the front end. How about people will call the end user? Or how about the desktop, mobile, web? I can call the end user.
Yeah, people are gonna always use like synonyms. and
Correct,
different
yeah.
words, right? Yeah, so
You-
we have to-
You just need to be adjusted with the wording.
But
and-
some questions, but honestly, some questions are confusing. Like the wording.
That's for you to clarify.
Yeah, so after I answered, I wrote on the discussion, this question is confusing. I am writing those.
But if you do not clarify it, then it will be confusing for you always. So you need to set up a meeting. If you have a 15, again, you are interrupting me now.
Yes, sorry.
Those interrupt will not help you.
Yeah, okay.
You have been told that throughout the week that's you are supposed to do. See, you are saying something very irrelevant.
Yeah.
So take this question and we stay
Yeah.
all week
I'll
and you do not do anything. Okay, so anyway, the Swagger you will be using, we use Swagger, but we do not build anything with the Swagger. Swagger is used by the backend developer to expose all the user stories API. One more time, Swagger is API specification tool that is used for the development team so that the team can see each of the API details. That's it. API details means you will know more details. Okay.
API means like two devices connected together.
Yes. Yes.
Can you say?
Yeah, I'm going to cover this. So a RESTful API is, the normal API is application programming interface. But we are talking about the RESTful API. A RESTful API is like the two or more than two systems or devices. They are connected and they are sending and receiving the data. because from the mobile app, you sent your like the username and password, right? It goes to our actually the web server, and from the web server it goes to our backend. So did my like the definition match? Your device is different. Our cloud server is different, right? And our web server is different. So two or more than two devices communicating logically. This all the communication is logical. Physical means something you can see. Logical means you do not see it. It is happening. Machine to machine is doing. Sending and receiving the data is called the RESTful API. Stick with this. You can read the Facebook or Google. There is so many meaning. For now, do not learn anything, just say it. Okay. So now why the API is? So API will be important for all of us, rest of our life working in the development team. But the Swagger, we use the Swagger just as a documentation tool for each of the API. So that development, the product owner will know what is the API for the sign up, what is the API for the sign in, what is the API for the reset password. We'll see soon. Okay. Okay, let me go. How come I cannot do it? Okay, sorry. Okay, so Swagger is an interface description language describing the RESTful API expression using the JSON. The JSON is a format, okay? The file format like a .doc, .text. So JSON is the format for the RESTful API. Swagger is used together with set of open source software tool design build for the web services, again, for the developer. They do it all of this. And Swagger include automated documentation, code generation, and test case generation. Again, that's the reason developer use the Swagger. The goal is so many user stories are coming. Each they have the API or they may not the API. For the someone knows this API, Swagger is actually giving you that ability. Okay, Swagger is not a testing tool. It is like a API specification tool. Developer implement it. Who is developer? Backend developer. So how? So remember that we checked the sign up last week, right? On the UI. Do you guys remember? Sign up on the UI means website, but actually everything is coming from the backend. Okay. So the way Swagger shows like this, exactly like this. So what you can see, you can learn, okay, what is this API actually does? That's it. Means API means user story. API means user story, because the first user story, then the software developer write the code, and they actually, it becomes an API or the endpoint. We call the endpoint. Here, from this until this is called the endpoint. Okay, /API until this is called the endpoint. Good. And then now also you can see there is some get post. So get post will go, let's go interface. Let's go first the URL. So URL is, you see this textsup4you.com, that's the URL. A URL is nothing more than an address given unique resource on the web. In theory, each valid URL points a unique resource. Means if you go to the textsup4you.com, you see the website. That's what it means. Such resource can be an HTML, CSS, or image. A resource means like what you see. So it can be HTML, images, or the CSS means something is like the beautiful, looking beautiful. And learn about the URL structure. Look at this. The first is the protocol. We already know HTTP is means in the online, anything you are communicating, it's like the HTTP protocol. A protocol is nothing but like some standard rules and regulation just for the communication, right? If there is hundreds of protocol in the software development in the computer. Each of the protocol does its own works. HTTP protocol is just for the web communication. FTP protocol means the file transfer, because you're doing the website, but you need to transfer some file, right? Upload some file. FTP protocol. You need to log in a remote computer. SSH protocol. Securely log in. You are sending email. Mail protocol. You are receiving an email. You are sending POP. You are sending the receiving email SMTP. All this protocol. It is not your job but become familiar with this protocol. That's how in the computer systems means the more than two systems work to communicate sending or receiving the data. Each of the protocol is designated for each functionality. And we are using the HTTP protocol. What it does, exchanging the information. So the first part is the protocol, it shows here. Second part is the website address. And third part is actually your endpoint. The file name, yeah. In this case, it can be endpoint. We call the endpoint. It can be endpoint is the generic name, image, file name, somebody's phone number, sign up, sign in, forget password, anything. That's the endpoint.
It's like specifying the platform you're looking for.
It specifies the user story. If you become more precise, actually the developer, write the code for this service.html. Go ahead.
So HTTP protocol is used for like basically all website,
All web.
all web.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why like 99.9% of time we see the HTTP protocol
Yes.
on any website.
Yes. So what is the URI now? So now we got if you understand the URL, that's the first part, domain name, that's the URI. URI means for us, what is the URI will be? Sign up, sign in. Remember e-commerce, sign up, sign in, forget password, the add something to the cart, everything you will be is specific URI. Okay, you have to say the right name. This is the right word. So URI means uniform resource identifier. Sign up is very uniform, right? It's like unique. Sign in is a unique. Log out is a unique. That's the reason it call it.
So the URL is
Same.
the link for the website,
Yes.
but URI is the link for specific items.
Resource with specific API we can
Or
call.
like a specific feature.
It's specific user story.
User story.
Say that. For the always bring the user story first, and then the code, and then that code become the URI. Good.
Can we select anything after the website name is
Domain name, we call the domain name.
anything after the domain name is URI?
You're right. You're right. You are absolutely right. And then sometimes we also use now we introduce the port number. Okay, so first we call the protocol, now we call the port number. It's important. Okay, so what is the port number? Port number is nothing but an Office extension. Okay, if you understand that Office 100 employees working, and everyone has a different extension, port is exactly work the same. So what does it mean? HTTP has a default port number. FTP protocol has a default port number. SSH has a specific default port number. Why you do this? The whole purpose is you are actually, again, this is not your job. It's all the cloud ops job. They do all of this, but just become familiar. Each port number represents a specific application. HTTP is an application. FTP is an application actually behind the scene, because email is an application. So port number represents a specific protocol. A protocol is actually the HTTP application actually, if you see that. Good. All right. And now we call the API endpoint. Okay. So for us, for the e-commerce, after the website information, we will call the, let me do you guys the same way. Who knows the staging, right?
Staging.
I got it. So this is the domain, right? This is the protocol. Now everybody understand what is the protocol.
Yeah.
Now everybody understand what is the domain, right?
Or URL.
Yep. URL, yeah. Look at this. When I click it, you will see the change here. Sorry. 1 second. No, I want to show something very like something unique. You look at this. It changed, right?
That's
So
called URI.
yes. Or we call the endpoint based on a given campaign page. That's it. That's exactly what does it mean. So now,
for instance, if we click on that link, then go to next items, it's gonna say camping, then something
if
else.
it has more pages, yeah, you're right.
So both of them will be called URI.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you are right. After this, the whole thing is called the URI. After this, everything is called the URI. But if campaign has another like the layer, you can call that actually the endpoint.
Endpoint.
Good.
Mhm.
Now, I'm going to introduce this two more wording. Just make sure you guys understand. This is called the absolute path.
Absolute,
Path means the full. And this is called the relative path.
absolute, absolute.
And relative path, right? Does it make sense? Because the absolute means the full the path. And this is after this is relative. After you get in here, all this is relative with the same application, same website. Anything you click, you will see this. Anything you click, you'll see this changes. But the domain is not the first part is not changing, right? Good. Okay, let's go here.